In the past, I would say that once a Nintendo game was released, it was finished and it would never see updates. However, recently we have seen Nintendo change their stance to try and keep the sales momentum going on certain titles. With Nintendo Switch Sports, we already know that golf is coming in a free update later in the fall, which is fantastic because the biggest problem with Nintendo Switch Sports is the lack of activities. And it doesn't help that 2 out of the 6 sports are racket based, and soccer is weird without the leg strap because using your arms to kick is very strange. The big hope is that if more sports are added after golf, they are added free as well, and not as an extra charge or put behind the Nintendo Switch Online paywall like some of their other updates, including Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Packs and the Animal Crossing DLC. To be clear, I have no issue with charging for these other titles because those titles felt like full games upon release, whereas Nintendo Switch Sports felt unfinished because it only had 6 sports. Wii Sports came with 5, but it was a free game that came with the Wii, and Wii Sports Resort had 12, but it was also packed in with a fairly essential accessory for the Wii with the Wii Motion Plus. Wii Sports sold around 82 million, but those sales are very hard to compare with other games because it was packed in with the Wii for the majority of the system's lifespan. Wii Sports Resort sold over 33 million and was actually the 3rd best-selling game on the Wii. Nintendo Switch Sports has a chance to join this club with the right pathing moving forward due to the install base of the Nintendo Switch. The most obvious hint for new sports are the areas on the zoomed out map of Spoko Square beside the bowling and tennis areas that look like they would be the perfect sections for 2 new sports. One of the areas is located right on the water and has plenty of open dock spaces available, and there are 2 empty buildings. Wii Sports Resort had a few water sports including wakeboarding and canoeing, making this a strong possibility for a water sport. Nintendo still has one of the best water physics games to date with Wave Race 64, and it would be great to see that level of physics powered on the Switch. Nintendo doesn't have to reinvent the wheel with new sports as they have many sports to pick from their previous titles that aren't included, with the biggest fan requests outside of golf being baseball and boxing, especially with the lack of Punch-Out on the Switch. Nintendo Switch Sports has big shoes to fill in the sales department when it comes to its predecessors, and we won't find out just how well it's selling until Nintendo's next earnings report on August 3rd. However, early indications are very positive. On the April NPD report, Nintendo Switch Sports placed 5th on the chart, which is pretty incredible for 2 reasons. 1, Nintendo doesn't divulge their digital sales, and 2, Nintendo Switch Sports was released on April 29th, meaning that this only includes 1 day of sales, and this bodes very well for the future of Nintendo Switch Sports because it doesn't seem like a day 1 purchase for most. The long-term support of Nintendo Switch Sports is easily tied to the sales, and if Nintendo sees strong, consistent sales, then the odds of adding more sports become drastically higher. According to the team, development started on Nintendo Switch Sports not long after the release of Nintendo Switch, and this means that Nintendo Switch Sports has been in development for around 5 years, and likely more sports have already been prototyped and developed. Our elevator review for Nintendo Switch Sports is that the foundation is good and it is fun, but there just isn't enough variety at the moment. Adding in new sports every 6 months to a year would definitely keep Nintendo Switch Sports in the conversation and could easily make it a must for new Switch buyers, especially the ones who have a fond memory of Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort.